We care about you at Chevyland.
At Chevyland, the advantage is yours. The Chevyland Advantage. 2 years, no charge scheduled maintenance is included with every new vehicle. And for a limited time, take advantage of 0% APR financing for up to 48 months on select new Chevys. Plus, don't forget, every new vehicle we sell comes with a Chevyland Advantage at no extra charge.
Chevyland cares about you.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Louisiana Sports Download presented by Chevyland.com. I am your host and owner of GoPreps.com, Hunter Bauer, and joining me today is another high school sports enthusiast. He is the host of ESPN's 104.5 Louisiana Prep Scoreboard, which you can catch on the radio, Your View, and YouTube every Friday night during the football season. Our guest, Todd Black. Todd, how are you doing tonight, man?
Doing good, man. Do you have a good Labor Day?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. The parents came down this weekend and got to see the grandchild, and I was pushed out of the way during that, so I was.
They got her a little excited. You couldn't get her back under control.
Yeah, had a tough time putting her down she didn't want to nap all weekend. She was too busy, and she wanted to play with Grammy and Pop, so she had a good weekend. But
can't blame her, I don't think.
No, and like I said, the grandparents were ecstatic, and like I said, me and the wife were an afterthought, so we just let them play. Let them play. But anyways, yeah, we've got a really good show on hand today. A lot to dig into. First week of the high school football season happened over the weekend, and man, Todd, it's I was telling somebody the other day, there was a lot of action this first week of the season, and I say that because usually in the first week, and it's not just at the high school levels, the college level, the pro level, you kind of get those introductory games. Let's see where we're at. We want to just kind of see what's going on. That really wasn't the case statewide in Louisiana high school football this week. I mean, you had a lot of good teams going at it from, Shreveport all the way to New Orleans. Really one of the biggest takeaways was, that Ruston-Warren Easton game up there that went down to the wire. Jerry Phillips and his crew made that long trek up to Northeast Louisiana and trailed for a good part of the game, come back, get them to overtime and end up upsetting Ruston. A lot of people thought Ruston was, going to take that game and run with it. But that was really one of the biggest upset. Warren Easton, I think, may have a chance to go back to the state championship this year, but also I think Ruston does as well. Just give me your thoughts, some big takeaways this past week, and what stood out to you.
So Warren Easton last year, if you remember, they got down to the 1 yard line. And it's a team that does not like to take snaps under center. They didn't, and they didn't get in. Coach Phillips has such a good personality, and he gets it. He does things with his kids outside of football. He wants to see them. He wants his kids to see him not only as a coach, but as a role model. And, he living in New Orleans, he knows what he's up against. And high school football and those high school coaches, Bryce Brown at Carr and the St. Aug, they are there literally for those kids on and off the field. And for them to be as good as they are year in and year out with all the nonsense that goes on down in New Orleans, it's really incredible. They are very well coached teams. They don't give up. And that's one thing that Coach Phillips said the other night when we had him on. He said, my guys wouldn't give up. They were down 19-6. We kept battling. And, lo and behold, in overtime, they come back and they do pull an upset. I agree. Warren Easton, and, it's funny, we won't transition to it that quick, but Warren Easton will be on probably the select side at the end of the week. And another one that I was surprised with a little bit was I think Rummel is they had a little bit of a low year last year, but Ouachita's supposed to be the real deal, and they went through them 42-28. And this week, Rummel and U High are supposed to play, and that's a very good defense against a very good offense. So you has loaded too. And there's so many games, I mean, that were out there that we can talk about. But for the first week, we'll talk about U High real quick. They beat Woodlawn 25-20. Woodlawn did not get to have their jamboree.
That's
because,
right.
And so you talk about that week off. You look at Florida State LSU last night. I think playing a week early for Florida State
Helped
made
them
a
a
big
lot.
difference.
Yep.
So having that little bit of an advantage is good. But this week, Woodlawn now travels to Lafayette to play Lafayette Christian.
Yeah, and Lafayette Christian, they just hammered Acadiana the other night. So Lafayette moves up to Class 4A this year, and as of right now is competing in that Division II, not a select bracket. But Acadiana is usually no pushover, and they're not a pushover. But that was one game that I just thought was going to be closer than what it was, and it seemed like Lafayette Christian just dominated the entire time. Now, granted, Acadiana is a lot younger than they have been over the last couple of years, and not an excuse. They'll still be in the playoff mix come December. So I'll be interested to see how they rebound from that. But
Zachary went over there, Hunter, and really had their way with Lafayette Christian, and Jimmy
That's
was
right.
like, he's like, were they sandbagging? What were they doing? But that was impressive.
Well, and that was something that I was speaking with Jake Martin about last week. With West Monroe almost getting skull dragged by Ruston in the Jamboree. And I was telling him, we were discussing, I said, it's funny because a lot of people put so much stock into scrimmages and jamborees, and they lose their minds when teams, lose big or win big. And my first reaction is it's a jamboree. Every coach wants to win, don't get me wrong, but no coach is going to show their full hand of what they got. If they want to hold some players back, they'll hold players back. They're not going to show their whole playbook in a 12-minute quarter. Do teams like Lafayette Christian, do teams like West Monroe that, had big wins this week, do they hold back for those big games that matter the next week? I don't know. I tend to think they don't put everything out there, but that's why I always tell people, I'm like, don't always put so much stock into what happens during a jamboree, because come week 10, if they play again, it may have a different result.
Well, and that's a good point, because, West Monroe and Ruston do play again. Dutchtown and East Ascension, who played in the Jamboree, play again. So you're right. If I'm going to be 0-0 after the Jamboree, regardless of what the scoreboard says.
That's right.
After week 5 or 6 or 7, I'm not. So, and to your point, Dunham here played Catholic really tight, and then because they're going to be a really good team, and then they turned around and they lost to Parkview. Parkview's not that bad, but still, I think that, like you said, I think these jamborees can be a little overlooked.
No doubt. And, just going through some notes over here, Zachary extended its longest winning streak in the state to 16 victories the other night. So they own the longest winning streak in the state. Sterlington was at 15 games going in with that battle with West Monroe. Of course, they ended up losing 24-7, but still an impressive streak. Some other streaks that I was looking at that we put out on the website today in our weekend review. Southwood High School up in Shreveport snapped a 17-game winning skid Friday night over Green Oaks. They hadn't won since 2019. And then down here in my neck of the woods over in Southwest Louisiana, Elton snapped a 22-game losing streak. Their last win came in 2018 over South Cameron. South Cameron doesn't even have football anymore. That's how long it's been since the Indians had won a game. So, congrats to those two teams. And then congrats to Zachary as well, extending that winning streak. And it may even go a few more weeks after that. So just a lot of exciting things going on, right now in high school football. And I think it continues again this week. Just a lot of big games. I was trying to go through the schedule while we were talking. But, it just seems, Todd, like, and I was telling somebody the other day about this, you had COVID in 2020, as well as Hurricane Laura and Delta. Then you had the hurricane last year that affected the South Central region. It just seems like the last 2 years, man, high school football uh, has just been affected so much. Plus, you have reclassification, plus all the extracurricular stuff going on right now too, with the brackets and the designations for slate, non-slate. I just feel like there's just so much excitement and build up going into this season that not only do I think we may see new champions this year that maybe some have never even won a state title before. I think you're going to see a lot of upsets. I think you're going to see players break out that you don't normally see. This is going to be an exciting year for high school football, I believe.
So you bring up an interesting point, and I wrote an article, a little article about it after I went and spoke at St. Charles last year. And I'm going to use a team down in your neck of the woods, Grand Lake. The year before, had 2 hurricanes go over that school. And it was high school football that brought that community back together.
That's right.
Quicker than probably most would have expected. And they ended up in the finals. St. Charles Catholic, Wayne Stein, who's done an unbelievable job over there, tells the story that he was going in these houses and helping people. And the number one question he got in every house he went to is, when's football going to start? And that's when he realized this community needs football.
That's right.
And, it's there's communities out there that, high school football is a lot more, I just don't have the word for it. It just does a lot more things than win and lose. And it doesn't do it just to the immediate people. It's the people that are around that program and surround the program. And it's just, I think, invaluable. And that's why I get frustrated when I see some of these silly things happen at these games and at these schools, because, you're taking away a good thing from kids who need it. And, right. And you have these bad situations that have, in both instances with Laplace and Grand Lake, that have been turned around, because of the football team. And it's like a movie, but it's true. And then, that's what's really awesome is that it hadn't been the ideal conditions the last 2 years, but in certain instances, high school football has been what the community's rallied around.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, it even extends beyond football. Look at South Terrebonne this year, winning the baseball state title.
Yep.
They didn't even have a field to play on this year. They had to go borrow different fields to play on just because, the damage that they sustained. It really, living down here in Lake Charles and going through Laura and Delta, we had to stay, temporarily in an apartment that was right next to the Barb football field for about 6 months. And, I would go outside every day, and little by little they would build that stadium back up. It didn't have lights. Half the stands were torn up. But you saw the team out there practicing, even though they couldn't play. They were out there playing, just 7-on-7 football, just getting out there and wanting to do something and play. So it just shows you what that means to communities that go through this. And, kind of a lead in, but, the last week there was a couple instances or over the last 2 weeks, there were a couple instances that, some games had to be canceled due to some ongoing stuff in their communities and in their schools, and one of them that comes to mind is the Livonia Port Barre situation. Livonia had some things go down at their school. Apparently there were some fights and things within their school that led to the game being canceled. And it's really, I hate that for both communities. They were getting ready for a good week, a good start to high school football. You hate to see anything canceled. You hate to see the kids affected by the actions of a few. So especially, the athletes that have been working so long and so hard over the off season to try to get to that first week. So, when you say it brings the communities together, it also affects the communities a lot when things like that happen.
So I'll clarify what you clarified for me is that Port Barry had nothing to do. This was just a Livonia issue that they
Right.
felt if they had the game that some things would probably go down. And
Right.
the week before it was at Tad Gormley with I think a young lady got shot. And then the week before that, it was Woodlawn Madison Prep, or during the same week, it was Woodlawn and Madison Prep, kind of, in a confrontation. And, I think as coaches, we got to do a better job of being able to keep that separate. But there are some things that go on outside of the field that, our principals have got to have more security around, and they got to do things to protect those kids on the field and those families in the stands.
Yeah, no doubt. And like I said, hopefully moving forward, nothing even remotely close to that stuff happens. We just got to remember it's all about the kids. You don't want to take away any memories, because stuff like this can lead to, or has led in the past to, schools and teams having to cancel whole seasons over things like this. And that's just something you don't want to see. But anyways, going back to, some big games going into this week. One of them, I just was skimming over. One of them, Zachary and John Curtis, which I think is going to be one of the big ones this week. You mentioned University and Rommel down there in Baton Rouge. So 2 big Baton Rouge games. I know Robin Fambro is going to have fun trying to cover both of those.
So Scotlandville, cars coming to Scotlandville.
Oh, that's right. That's
You
right.
you got Catholic going to Warren Easton.
Oh, there you go.
You have Neville in Washita. You have West Monroe in East Ascension.
That's going to be a
Jesuit
good one.
in Ruston. St. Charles in Lutcher. It gets, it's just great. Madison Prep, Lab, Mangum Sterlington, Washita Christian Oak Grove. These are like rivalry great games. I'd go see any of them.
And 2 of them that stick out to me is Texas High is going to go play at Benton, and Texas High has a really strong tradition over there. Several championships, a lot of NFL. Went on to play in the NFL. Has gone there. Texas High, they usually play a couple of those Shreveport Bossier schools. I think they've played Evangel a couple times. So that's going to be a real interesting game. That's going to be in Benton Friday night. So that's going to be one to keep up with. But another one, Todd, and this is a team I've been keeping up with for the last year or so. Friday night down in Lafayette, Turlings Catholic is going to host Avoyelles. Now, for those of you who haven't really followed Avoyelles, Todd, way more football than I do. So the type of offense that Avoyelles runs, it's almost like a double wing type offense. They don't throw the ball hardly. They don't punt. They don't do extra points. They go for 2 every time. And Coach Andy Boone, he has 3 running backs who rushed for over 1,000 yards last year. One of them rushed for 249 yards the other night, I believe, on 9 carries, and scored 3 or 4 times, and that was against Marksville. But that's going to be a game that I think is going to be fun to watch, because you're going to have Avoyelles in their offense, but then you're also going to have Turling's offense, which can be high octane, spread it out. They have a really good quarterback, the Welch kid, probably going to end up going somewhere. It's going to come down to defense, but you just don't see those type of matchups very often, and that's what I'm saying. No, these teams are not holding back this season, and that's what I like about it. And before that, Avoyelles is also going to play Lafayette Christian later this year and Southern Lab. So that shows you how much confidence Coach Andy Boone has in his squad this year. I think they're going to be really good.
So last year in 2A, they made an incredible run.
That's right.
You mentioned those 1,000-yard rushers. If I'm not mistaken, 2 of the 3 were out towards the end of the year. So they go to Manny in the semifinals. So Manny beat them earlier that year, 34-30.
Yeah, in district play. That's right.
In the semifinals, they lost, I think, 40-38. I see Jess Curtis in the dome, and I said, dude, how did he do it? Mm-hmm. I said, because he's got all those injuries. He said, man, He said he's unbelievable. So, he gets in unbalanced. He does a lot
That's
of,
right.
different things. And, for him to come back, because I thought he lost a pretty good bit last year, but I must have been mistaken it since he scored 72. So it will be interesting. And it's a really fun team to watch. I've only seen him on video, but he does it with the best of the best, and he can do it in two or three. If he's two or three deep, that was amazing to me. What type of game plan he was able to put together, excuse me, against Manny, and really hold them, or not hold them, but really gave them a run for their money.
Yeah, looking at Coach Boone's questionnaire that he submitted to us, they've got 7 offensive starters returning, 6 defensive starters, and their offense. I knew it was close. He calls it the double tight, double wing. Guys, if y'all haven't watched Avoyelles play, Google their huddle video or something. It's interesting to watch. It is like the most 1940-ish football you'll ever see, but they run it so well, and that's what's made them really good. They have Carlos Bezert, who is just a monster among men. He is 6'1", 260 pounds. Their other running back that ran for 249 yards the other night, he's 5'11", 175. And then they also have a lineman, Reggie Alexander, 6'4", 320. So they got some good size on their team.
Help me out. Where's Morrowville?
Moroville, I have
Or
no idea.
Avoyelles? Where is it? Isn't it? Isn't that where they are?
Yeah, let me see. I'm looking it up right now.
I shouldn't have put you on the spot like
No,
that.
you're good. You're good. They're let's see, Moorville, Vols Parish. I was trying to see what the closest city is to them. They're like over in the central part of Louisiana, but like the east side, almost to Mississippi. Let's see here.
So while you're going over that, I'm going to tell you, last year, Avoyelles 86, 34, 54, 40, 56, 30, 50, 30, 32, 42, 30, 46, 38 are all points their offense scores.
So they are an hour north of Lafayette and like an hour southeast of Alexandria. They're over by Marksville. So
Really?
they're kind of in that, like I said, they're not far from Mississippi. I mean, let's just like out in the middle of nowhere, to be honest with you. So some homegrown boys, I promise you that. They are getting those boys. No telling where they're getting them. I mean, like I said, to watch some of those running backs play, I mean, they're so physical, so big, but they're fast too. So, like I said, it's going to be interesting to keep up with them this year. They play a lot of good teams. They're actually in a new district. They're not in Manny's district anymore. I wish I could have seen that rematch this year. So it's going to be interesting to keep up with Coach Boone and them. And then, yeah, go ahead.
But they're in 3A, or did they say 2A, just a different district?
2A, just a different district. Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
But yeah, so up in Northeast Louisiana, Ruston is hosting Jesuit, another New Orleans team for the Bearcats this week, and Jesuit won in overtime, 16-13 last week. So that ought to be a pretty good one. And then Ouachita Parish hosts Neville, and then Ouachita Christian hosts Oak Grove. Oak Grove moved up to 2A this year. They used to be in Ouachita Christian's district, so it's a little rematch outside of district play for those two. But another game to keep an eye on, Starlington and Mangum. Starlington took that loss with West Monroe last week, but Mangum's usually a really good 2A football team, so be sure to keep up with that as well. So, like I said, Todd, just, going into week 2, we're not slowing down as far as exciting matchups. And it doesn't matter if you're in Shreveport or Lake Charles or Moroville, wherever Avoyelles is. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens. And then in my neck of the woods, where I'm from, Haynesville is hosting Harmony Grove out of Camden, Arkansas, in a rare – Haynesville doesn't usually play teams like that, so that's going to be interesting to keep up with as well.
Were you surprised that Homer played as well as they did against Union Parish?
So the thing about Homer, I felt going into this season, especially into that game with Union Parish, I felt like nobody was giving Homer a chance in that, and not taking anything away from Trey Holly, because he's probably one of the best running backs in the country. But they thought that they weren't going to slow Trey Holly down. But I tell you what, I think Homer earned a lot of respect from people all over the state Friday night, playing Union Parish that close, because I think Union Parish is another team that could possibly go back to the state championship or make a deep run this year as well. Homer, they lose their quarterback, but they return a lot offensively this year, and I think are going to have a lot of firepower again, especially in that 1A district with Haynesville and Glenbrook. And Glenbrook is going to be good this year as well.
So I saw the field at Neville and Evangel,
yeah,
but Homer isn't far from there, right?
Yeah, so Claiborne Parish, which is where Haynesville and Homer is about, depends on how fast you drive, is about an hour northeast of Shreveport.
Okay.
So Haynesville is 2 miles from the Arkansas state line. So anyways, but yeah, Claiborne Parish is not far. In fact, I saw a little bit of Homer and Haynesville's field because they both played at home. And for the most part, the fields looked healthy. So I don't know what the heck was going on over there in Shreveport the other night, but you want to talk about a mud bath. I saw, and I think Todd shared it too on his Facebook, but Neville's uniforms, they were solid white coming into the game, and it looked like literally somebody had just dumped mud all over them, and no telling how many cycles they went through Saturday morning trying to get all that mud out. You want to talk about good mud rain football? That was the game to go to, but I feel sorry for Evangel's field because it is kaput for the rest of the season. I promise you that.
So did you see the video, the picture I shared with Neville's coach, Tannehill, outside, literally just in a bucket, just pounding it? I mean, and that's what coaches do. He's out, doing laundry. They wear so many hats, but you got to do what you got to do. Those uniforms aren't cheap.
Well, I don't know if you saw this, Todd, but so Evangel started the game with red uniforms. At halftime, they changed. They went and got into blue uniforms, came out in the second half in brand new uniforms, dry. I guess they thought it was going to help them win or be an advantage, which Neville ended up winning that game 8-0, which probably was a damn good football game. But yeah, so the Eagles, I guess, thought they were going to have the upper hand in that second half and come out in brand new uniforms. And I hated to be either the coaches or the student managers that had to wash 2 sets of uniforms that night.
So here's, things are different now. So when we went on the road like that, we would always shower before we got back on the bus and we'd go back. A lot of times kids don't do that. You imagine how that bus, it's like.
It was probably worse than going and playing on a field, just normal conditions where it's 100 degrees outside, sweaty and stuff, but it had to be 10 times worse, getting back on the bus, especially, I mean, I'm assuming they showered, but on the off chance they didn't get a chance, I couldn't imagine all that. I mean, that's
right.
Shreveport to Monroe's probably a good 2.5 hours to get home. So crazy stuff.
On a bus, especially.
Yeah. So anyways, but like I said, exciting action from the first week. It's going to transition over to the second week. A lot of great matchups. Like I said, that Zachary-John Curtis game I think is going to be really good. John Curtis has been down the last couple of years, and not just in numbers, but I think in depth. I think they have a lot to prove going into this game. They have a chance to end a 16-game winning streak going back to before last year. So if there's anybody that can win in a big game, can be JT Curtis. He knows how to win those type of games. Anyways, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's interesting about that because a team that could hurt Zachary is a ball control offense type team.
That's right.
Now, on the opposite side of that, you've got a very good coaching staff that understands how to defend what John Curtis runs. So it's going to be a really good chess match of what's going to go down. But again, if John Curtis can go in and run the dive, they'll be able to move the ball and have some success. But it's kind of two different theories on offense for sure. But it's going to be a great chess match between a great set of coaching staffs on both sides.
Well, and that's the thing about Zachary is, man, it's almost like they're going to be put through the gauntlet each and every week because the way they redid the districts, and Robin Fambro was talking about this. I think Catholics in their district. I want to say Woodlawn's in the district. Scotlandville. So it's almost
Central.
like it's going to be like the SEC of Class 5A in that district. So to go up against your East Ascensions or your John Curtises early in the year, win or lose, I feel like the ultimate goal is, hey, that's going to get us prepared mentally, physically for such a demanding district schedule. But not only that, it's going to get us ready for the playoffs as well. And I feel like Coach Brewerton and them, they don't back down from anything. They never have. I mean, they play a lot of big teams each year. So, and was very impressive in the Class 5A title game last year and could end up making a run for it again. Eli Holstein, Alabama commit. He's returning this year. Got a lot to prove before he head on to Tuscaloosa. So big game Friday night for them, for the Broncos.
It will be. And, it's there's a lot of teams. Well, and we'll talk about this shortly. The divisions and classes are going to be have a different look, but a lot of the same teams. You think about the Sterlingtons, you think about the Zacharys, the U Highs, Edie White. There's a lot of teams that are going to have the opportunity to get back, and they're all going to play in the Superdome again finally. And I think that's a really good move for the LHSA and especially for the kids.
Well, and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Doing the right thing for the kids, and I think that was one of the best moves that Eddie Bonan and his staff in the executive committee made, was returning everybody to the Superdome. I know a lot of people all over the state have opinions on that on both sides, but again, it goes back to what's best for the student athletes. What student athlete would not want to play inside the Superdome? I mean, I don't know. I've never heard of anybody that says I don't want to play a state championship in the Superdome. Right. Now, like I said, I know there's different opinions about that, about why, but Todd, it's just something special about walking inside that building and knowing this might be, as a senior, this might be your last game, and maybe to go out on top inside the Superdome where so much history has been made over the last 50 or so years that building has existed. I mean, there's been Super Bowls played, national championships played, all sorts of Hall of Famers. Just to even be on the same playing field as where they stood, it doesn't get any better than that.
And the bottom line is the split championships were a nightmare on the LHSAA, because they only have a certain amount of people to do a certain amount of jobs. So when they're going all over the place, and when the Turlings Catholic guy in 2016 or whatever said they wanted to split, he literally said, all we need is a ball and a trophy. Well, that wasn't true. They needed a lot more than that. And then you're starting to stretch the LHSAA, which then makes the championship experience go south. So they had to find out a way. They want to make the experience for Division 4 the same as Class 5A. And they want to make it as good as they possibly can for those kids. And that's what matters to them. And the best way to do that was to put them back in the Superdome. And I agree with you. I think it was a very good move, regardless of what people say, because it's, you can sit there and whine, and I get it. Private schools are frustrated because of how that split went down, and I don't blame them. But don't make the situation worse and want to go, make it more about something else. I think it's a great move.
This week, Todd, the LHSA executive committee is meeting again to hear appeals from the parishes and schools that were given a new select designation back during the meeting in June. And for those who don't know, the executive committee voted 16-5 back in June to redefine the term select. And that includes schools who have magnet components, are magnet schools, open enrollment parishes, things of that nature. And Todd, you may have the number. I don't have it on hand, but there was a good portion of schools that were moved from a non-select designation to select. And I think about 70 something schools are appealing that decision this week, around that number. It's a big week. The LHSA is going to hear a lot of appeals on Wednesday, and then not only that, on top of that, Thursday, I believe Executive Director Eddie Bonon is going to make some recommendations to the Executive Committee regarding the playoffs and maybe some changes there as far as how those are administered, not only for football but for all sports. Todd, just real quick, give me your thoughts on I know there's a lot of schools going into this meeting that are they feel like they shouldn't be on the select side, and maybe some of them do have a legitimate argument. Just kind of take us through that. Do you foresee a lot of schools being placed back on the non-select, or do you see this thing moving forward the way it was originally chosen?
So here's the difference between what happened in June and what happened in 2013. In 2013, they grabbed things out of the air. The 25%, they don't know where it came from. They just kind of, and then they went, they targeted a certain amount of schools, but yet they used that 25%, and Lafayette Parish has a 30% out of zone enrollment. So what they did in June is they took the numbers from the Department of Education, and they're all these numbers are legit. So what these schools are going to have to defend is how they're designated by the Department of Education. And so when you have an open enrollment parish, let's just say in Lafayette Parish, they've all got different, like I think Como's got the arts specialty.
Different magnet type programs. Yeah.
So when you look at like Rapides Parish, and they've all been very pro split. Not all of them. Like Alexandria and the private schools there, all been like they don't care who plays.
Right.
But then it gets flipped on them, and now all of a sudden it's not fair. Well, what does that tell you? It tells you they knew that what they were doing to private schools wasn't fair, but they did it anyway. And that really is the problem that I've always had with this split. But there are schools in these parishes, outerlying schools, like maybe a Northwood Lena, let's say. They're 15 miles outside of any other boundary. They may not have anybody in their school that's out of zone, right? So they don't really need to be in the select side. They should be non-select just because they're isolated in that community. Those are the schools that may win that appeal. Other than that, a whole parish won't get turned over. That's not going to happen. It's because they're open enrollment and they can get kids outside of their attendance zone. And that's just, when you have certain charter schools that were select and certain that weren't, certain magnet that were, certain magnet that weren't, meaning select, something is not right with the definition, because it's, and so that's what Eddie and the LHSA tried to do, was they wanted to redefine the definition to be able to say, this is why you're here. They have a defined set of rules now, opposed to just avoiding the question, or if somebody complained, they moved Carr, Warren Easton from select and non-select in 5 minutes.
Yeah, and that's really, and I'm still new to all this, as as far as the 2013 vote and learning how things went down. people ask me all the time, what does select mean prior to the June meeting? I assume it's 25% out of your enrollment zone, but there was no like definite. This is what it is. You know, before 2013's vote, or a little before 2013's vote, there weren't a lot of charter schools. There weren't that many magnet programs, and it seems that since the vote took place, and I'm not saying all schools took advantage, but some schools decided, well, we're going to start instituting magnet programs. We're going to open up more charter schools, da 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 da. This new vote, you know, under the 4.4.4 bylaw, which promotes fair play amongst all member schools, I feel like that gives the best chance for all student athletes to have a fair playing field for the first time since that 2013 vote. Like it or not, we know what the definition of a select school is now. There is no doubt about that. Moving forward, though, what's the biggest challenge you think for Eddie and his staff, as far as, you know, they've got to go through all these appeals on Wednesday to try to figure out, who stays and who goes. But then after that, now we've got to decide how are these playoffs going to be determined, because the days of 1-9 teams making it, I feel, are over. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. And I'm not talking about football. I'm talking about all sports.
Yep.
You know, that's where the fair playing field, I think, comes in as well. It's not fair for a 1-9 team to travel 4.5 hours to play for 2 hours. Not even that, maybe, now that there's a running clock in effect for football and basketball. What's the biggest hurdles as Eddie and his staff try to convince the executive committee, hey, this is what we got to do for the playoffs now, and it's got to happen this year?
So, as far as with the appeals, when they decided to redesignate a non-select school from select to non-select, or from non-select to select, they didn't do it just because. They did it because they had data to support their decision. So that data is still there, and that's what's going to make this appeal easy for a lot of these schools. Now, what's going to be hard, so as I kept up with the records, the playoffs through this whole thing. In class 1A, 2A, and 3A, usually you get down to the area of 24 and you start seeing bad records.
Right.
Especially 1A. 4A and 5A was always able to, pretty much have a stable bracket. And so I don't know that if maybe they might do 5A, 4A, maybe 32 teams and the rest 24. Would they do 1A 16? Because for the data I know, 1A should be 16. And everything. So ever since 2013, Hunter, there hadn't been one team, maybe one or two teams after the 16 seed in 1A that's had a winning record.
Right.
And, I'm not talking about just, it's not what playoffs are for. And the integrity of the association has to be brought back in those brackets. And that's what they're trying to do. Who cares about a trophy? Let's make this thing right. Let's get it fair. And let's go play football and do it the right way and not try to dodge people. So their biggest hurdle is just going to be, they're going to have the data, they're going to have the cutoff points. And I think that their biggest hurdle is going to be a change. Nobody likes change, and you're not going to make everybody happy. So you're going to have half the people, like in every decision the LHSA makes, half of them are good, half of them are bad. And so that's going to be their biggest challenge that they have is it's a change, it's different, but it's better for, if you want to stay split, this is what you're going to get. It's better for the student athletes.
Well, and I think, back in June when we attended that meeting, sitting there in that room as they were doing the roll call vote to redefine the select term, as the yays began to grow more than the nays, me and Robin Fambro looked at each other like, oh my gosh, like, going into that meeting, nobody really knew what was going to happen. Part of us thought, well, maybe they might vote for this, but in the past, just stuff like this really never even mostly got tabled. What I think is going to be interesting is this is going to be the executive committee that voted 16-5 to make a change, which I thought was a good change. But whatever Mr. Bonin recommends to the committee, I do think that he has their ear now. I think that he finally has an executive committee that will listen to every side, to each side, and weigh all those options instead of just saying, nope, this is how it's going to be. Doesn't matter. Don't care about the stats. Don't care about the information.
They don't have an agenda.
That's right. And so, honestly, when they come out of those meetings Wednesday and Thursday, no matter what it is, no matter who thinks that they like it or they don't like it, I think whatever happens is going to be what they thought was best for the student athletes and for the association and its member schools. And I think it's going to make Louisiana high school football relevant again, because I really don't think it's been relevant compared to other states in the country as far as competitiveness and having the best teams play every year. I think, again, it's going to be a change, and I think you're going to see it quickly this year.
And, no one else in the country does it like Louisiana when they split, because Louisiana is not the only state that has this issue. This is a nationwide deal. And there were a lot of options for the executive committee to go out and see what has worked and what hadn't worked.
That's
and the
right.
truth is not anyone across the country has found a good solution that both people like. But in the whole process of it, if you showed these brackets to people around the country with an 18 bracket, a 14 bracket in girls, or 5-team bracket in girls basketball, and so forth and so on. If you let them say, all right, just tell me, do you think these are legitimate or not? 90% of them are going to say, no, they're not.
Right.
And, it's like people get tied into LSU. They're so close and, the world's good, but you're right on top of it. But when you get on the outside looking in, you see the bigger picture and certain things aren't right. And this is one of them. And I think, how that went down in 2013, just all the sneakiness and slyness and the under the table type stuff is not what high school sports is all about. And that's the thing that Mr. Bonin has really worked to get the reputation of the LHSA back to where it needs to be. Now, people may not like all his decisions, and that's understandable. But if he has a reason for the decisions he makes, you may not agree with them, but and I don't agree with all of them. And he did tell me one time, he's like, how do you not agree with that? So I was like, but still, you've mentioned it a couple of times. He does it because he ultimately goes with what he feels is the best for the student athletes. And that's what that association is supposed to do. If it's not for the student athletes, that association doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's funny, a lot of people want to complain about how things are being done, but they don't ever want to offer a solution. And I heard something one time, and it was like, this guy was complaining about his job or how the job should be done and da da da. And the boss was like, well, give me a suggestion. Tell me how to make it better. Tell me what I need to do. And he was like, I don't know. You just make it work. And it always reminded me of the situation that's going on with the LHSA and the split is, it seems like everybody wants to, dog every decision, but they don't want to offer a solution. And look, I'm not even saying like it has to be a smart or a good solution. Offer something. Like, give me something, I think is what, Mr. Bonon has basically wanted to say. Tell me what to do. I've done everything that in my power that I thought that, could help fix this. And, a lot of people were saying how the committee, they snuck this, they snuck this in and nobody knew about it, which was not true, by the way. Everybody knew what was going down. A lot of information had been passed on for months
Go
on
at the
end.
June meeting.
Yeah, the June meeting. And so, it wasn't done in secrecy. Plenty of people had chances to come and let their voice be heard. In fact, this was my first executive committee that I attended. There were so many chairs in the big meeting room and Mr. Bonon made that comment. He said, I had more security brought in. I had more chairs brought in because I thought there would be a lot of people here wanting to speak their mind. Only one person showed up to voice their opinion out of 300 and something member schools. But anyways, people are going to be there to voice their opinions this week. Like I said, over 70-something schools, I think, are appealing the decision to try to move back to non-select. And Todd, if you want to chime in here for a minute, I'm going to try to look at this list and just kind of give everybody an example of some of the schools that are going to appeal.
Right. And a lot of them are based, there's two types of situations. Let's look at, I think it's West Carroll. Oak Grove is the only football playing school in that parish. You have a B school, I think Kilgore, maybe.
Forest and Kilbourne. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And so Oak Grove, do they get to pull from the B and C districts for football because they're the only football playing school? And if they do, well, you're select. Same thing with Manny. That's the type of schools. And then there's some that's in open enrollment parishes that it's a free for all all the time. And then what Orleans and Jefferson Parish are doing, I have no idea, because they've got the one app that lets kids go anywhere in the city that they want to. So beyond me to why they're appealing.
Yeah, just, an example of some of the parishes and schools. So Caddo Parish, they're an open enrollment parish. Some of them have magnet programs as well. That's, your North Caddos, your Huntingtons, your Northwood Shreveports, Iberville Parish, East Iberville, White Castle, Plaquemine, Jackson Parish. That's another one. Jonesboro Hodge is the only football playing school. They're an open enrollment. They have Quitman and Weston in that parish with them. The only one in Lafayette Parish that's appealing is Southside, and that includes Acadiana, Karen Crow. They decided they're going to be on the select side. Like Todd mentioned, Orleans Parish, Jefferson Parish, the parish as a whole is going to be appealing that decision, and those include, like in Orleans Parish, you've got Edna Carr, you've got Warren Easton, McDonough 35, Booker T. Washington. And then in Jefferson Parish, you have like West Jefferson, East Jefferson, Higgins, Errett, in schools like that. And then Rapides Parish as a whole is going to be appealing. That's Alexandria, Buckeye, Tioga, Pineville, Northwood Lena. And then, and again, like Todd said, you got West Carroll Parish with Oak Grove leading the pack there. And then Darbon Woods Charter up in Union Parish, just to name a few. You can go on gopreps.com and view the whole list on our Extra Point Weekend Review.
And they could go also to Go Preps during this whole meeting because you're pending, but you're planning on being there.
Yeah, we plan on being there. And that's something I failed to mention. The appeals are going to be in closed session, so only the executive committee can be present to hear those appeals during the Wednesday portion of the executive committee meeting. And then Thursday, during the Mr. Bonon's recommendation for the playoffs, that's also going to be in a closed meeting. So both those decisions, I assume, will come after all that has been talked through and decided by the executive committee. We plan on being there. We plan on covering it, and as it unfolds. But we'll let you know different if that doesn't happen. But anyways, Todd, any final thoughts on what's coming up in those 2 days? I mean, do you want to give a guess, give a prediction? Just do you want to just anything you want to add about what fans could expect to see following Wednesday and Thursday?
So the one thing, I think the big thing you have to understand is whatever class, whatever division that you are in today does not mean that's going to be where you are going to be after the end of this week. Everything's going to kind of shuffle up. Like in Division One, there's no longer going to be 8 or 12 teams. So understand that, you don't really know where you're going to land. And it also depends on who wins these appeals. Okay.
That's right.
I wouldn't think more than 5 or 6 are going to maybe win the appeals. And if they do, it's going to be the right thing. They're not going to let anybody slide. It's going to be, but I think that other than that, you mentioned, this week there's great football. Week 3, these schools have really, taken the gloves off, for lack of better words, in non-district play. And it's all for one reason, and it's to get better, and I just think about, next year, Ruston's going to have to take back-to-back trips to New Orleans, right? They're going to have to go play Warren Easton and then come back and go play Jesuit. So right. I don't know what Coach Ball was thinking right there, but he's a great coach, and he's going to do a great job with Ruston, or has been doing a great job with Ruston. But after this week, I think a lot of people will be excited about it. A lot won't. But you know what? If you're one of the ones that weren't, put yourself in the select school shoes in 2013, and if you don't want it to be this way, get back together, and then you'll have it all the brackets in one. There's options. You don't like them, but there's options to make sure things aren't this way.
Yeah, and I mean that's like I said, I think that's going to be, and I hope it doesn't overshadow any of the games this week. But that's definitely going to be a big storyline, is what's going to unfold at the executive committee meeting. But it's I think it's going to be exciting because we're finally going to have a for sure who is playing in what division and class, and who's going to be select and non-select, whatever Mr. Bonon and the committee come up with. Again, it's just an interesting storyline. It's going to be exciting to see. It's change. That's been needed for years. Even in the last 2 years, we had to wait a year for reclassification and things like that. So new districts, new rivalries occurring. Again, one thing that just stands out to me is like a Lafayette Christian moving up to 4A. New district, new rivals. The St. Thomas Moors and Westgates and all of them. And now they may be able to play some of those non-select schools, or schools that were in non-select, in the playoffs now, that a lot of people want to see. There's been some big-time matchups that could have happened in the playoffs over the last couple of years that people didn't get a chance to see because of the split. So, again, it all goes back to that balance. It's finally balancing out, and you're going to have, you're going to have those exciting matchups. And when I say you may see some new champions this year, I definitely think you're going to see some new champions this year, for sure. And not just in football, but all over the place, every sport.
Well, and if you do, that it's going in the right direction.
That's right.
After, you look in 5A, since the split, it's been Acadiana, Zachary, and there was one other school that won, but I can't remember, maybe Hanville, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, man, it's going to be great football season. And we're already about to be at week 2. And
it needs to slow down. It's already week 2. It needs to slow down. Gosh, it was just the scrimmage the other day. Now we're in week 2.
Yeah, so. You'll say that too one time when your daughter's like 18. You're going to be like, where did time go? because that's what I'm going through right now.
Oh my gosh. I know people tell me that all the time and I'm just like, I know, just please just don't talk about it. She's already 2, she'll be 3 in February. So time sure is going by quick. So
Next time we'll have to have her on.
hey, look, I will tell you this. She will steal the show. I promise you. She will steal the show. It will be the Hattie Jane Bauer show. I promise you.
Hey,
She
that's the way
she
it should
loves it.
be.
So, anyways, Todd, man, I appreciate you being on with me. We're gonna try to make this a weekly thing. We're gonna try to get some more guests on throughout the year. Try to get some players and some coaches to come as the season progresses and we start getting a little into the playoff picture. Like I said, we're still kind of uneasy right now just because of the committee meeting this week. But man, it's been a joy talking to you. Again, tell everybody about the Louisiana Prep Scoreboard every Friday night.
So every Friday night, you can catch, if you're in South Louisiana, Lafayette, New Orleans, and Baton Rouge, we're on Your View Channel 4. If you're in other places around the state or the country or whatever, you can catch us on YouTube Live.
That's
And
right.
then on the radio, with the internet, you can catch us from anywhere, but we're locally here on 104.5 ESPN as well. And Cade does a show at 6 o'clock that's more local, but he does a review of games around the state within Catholic High. And then we come on right after that. And we enjoy getting, like we had Coach Phillips on last week from Warren East. And
Mike Valerie.
really,
that was a good Mike Valerie. That was a good conversation.
And thank you. And we enjoy having those guys on and getting them on there to give themselves some recognition, but they always pass it off to the kids, and that's what it's all about. And we like to have fun and have a good time, but we want to make those kids the highlight of the show. And that's the most important thing.
And that's from 10 to midnight, right?
10 to midnight.
10 to midnight. Yeah. I got a chance to go 2 years ago and be a guest on the show. Awesome experience. Todd and the guys just do an amazing job. Again, really good interviews. They provide all the scores. So yeah, be sure to catch them if you get Your View, or even if I go on YouTube TV while I'm entering scores all night long just to hear Todd and Jimmy and Kate and all of them. So a really good show. So anyways, guys, we thank y'all for listening to us this week. Be sure to tune in next week. We're going to try to drop a new episode every Monday or Tuesday. Again, we're supported by Chevyland. I can't leave without giving Chevyland up in Shreveport a shout out. They are the #1 new and used vehicle dealership in the area. But if you live outside of Shreveport-Bossier, it's no problem. Chevyland offers free delivery anywhere in the state of Louisiana with the purchase of a new Chevrolet. And don't forget about their Chevyland Advantage as well. No charge, scheduled maintenance for the first year or 12,000 miles with the purchase of a new vehicle. And Chevyland, they're family-owned, operated since 1962. Bubba Winningham, they have been with GoPreps.com since day one. They've supported us since day one. So really, I can't even begin to describe how much I appreciate them. Go visit them, 7500 Uri Drive if you're over in Shreveport, or you can go to Chevyland.com. And like I said, that's click, shop, and drive. They'll deliver anywhere in the state for free if you purchase from them. So
you ordered online, right?
You can order it
online.
Find
something you like it, they bring it to you?
Find something you like it, they'll deliver it to you for free. Won't charge you. Bubba and them, they're good guys. Really good guys. So anyways. But
I bet so, man. I'm glad they take care of you. I'm pretty sure they take care of all their customers like they take care of you.
No doubt. They're, like I said, they've been family owned and operated since 1962. And man, I got to visit with Bubba a couple years ago and just kind of hit it off with him and struck up a friendship. And like I said, since day one, since we launched the website, they've been there, and they've sponsored football all 3 seasons we've covered. So just fantastic people. And like I said, Chevyland.com, 7500 Uri Drive over in Shreveport. Go visit them, or go online and buy you a new truck or car. You won't be disappointed. So, Todd, man, appreciate it. We'll be back here next week. Hopefully we'll get a guest on so people won't just hear us ramble all night long, even though we're the 2 smartest guys in the room. So
that's right. Maybe Eric Held or
yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm forgetting it, but the guys that are working with the brackets, and we might could have them on to discuss their rationale for what they did.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
that was my thought process, was to get somebody after the executive committee meeting, just kind of go over what, go into the details and stuff. So we'll have to dig into that and see if we can't get somebody to come on. So, but anyways, guys, we appreciate it. Again, tune in next week, and we'll see you then.